I left for 1 year. When I came back, there were 3 luxury mansions built on MY property. The HOA thought they could steal my land. But what happened next? They're now paying me $15,000 in monthly rent, and I own their entire development. Stay until the end to find out how I turned their illegal construction into MY retirement plan. This is insane. Hey everyone, welcome back to Neighbor Wars HQ. If you're new here, this channel is all about the wildest property disputes, HOA nightmares, and neighbor battles you've ever heard. And trust me, today's story is going to blow your mind. Before we dive in, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell because the stories I cover are absolutely insane and you don't want to miss a single one. Also, drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in this situation. So let's get into it. My name is Marcus Sullivan, and this is the story of how I went from almost losing everything to becoming a millionaire landlord. By complete accident. Let me take you back to where this all started. 5 years ago, I inherited a 12-acre piece of land from my grandfather in a small town outside Charlotte, North Carolina. This wasn't just any property. This was pristine, untouched land with rolling hills, mature oak trees, and a small creek running through it. My grandfather bought it back in 1967 for practically nothing, and it had been in our family ever since. The land was technically zoned as agricultural, but it was surrounded by new development. And I mean surrounded. On 3 sides, there were these massive planned communities going up with HOAs, strict bylaws, and houses selling for $800,000 to $1. $2 million. My property? It was this beautiful, undeveloped oasis right in the middle of all this suburban sprawl. Now, I'm a marine biologist by profession. I travel a lot for research projects, sometimes for months at a time. The land was just sitting there, and honestly, I wasn't sure what to do with it. I had paid all my property taxes, kept everything up to code, and had no trespassing signs posted everywhere. The property was surveyed, marked, and fully documented with the county. But here's where it gets interesting. Right next to my property was the Riverside Estates HOA. And let me tell you about this HOA. This wasn't your typical homeowners association. This was run by a guy named Gerald Blackwood, a real estate developer who basically controlled the entire community like his personal kingdom. In March of 2023, I got offered an incredible research opportunity, a year-long expedition studying coral reef systems in the South Pacific. This was a dream project, fully funded, and something I couldn't pass up. But it meant I'd be gone for an entire year with limited communication. We're talking remote islands, satellite phones only, that kind of thing. Before I left, I made sure everything was handled. I had a property management company checking on the land every month. I had a lawyer with power of attorney to handle any issues. I paid my property taxes 2 years in advance. I even sent certified letters to the county and the neighboring HOA, informing them that the property was occupied, owned, and not for sale. I did everything right, or so I thought. Fast forward to April 2024. I'm flying back into Charlotte after 12 months away. I'm exhausted, jet-lagged, and excited to finally sleep in my own bed. I decided to drive by my property before heading home, just to check on things. And that's when I saw it. I literally had to pull over because I thought I was hallucinating. On MY property, there were 3 massive houses. Not small houses. Not cute little cottages. I'm talking 6,000 square foot mansions with manicured lawns, circular driveways, and luxury cars parked outside. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I drove up to the nearest house, and there was a family unloading groceries, living there, on MY land. I got out of my car, and this woman looked at me like I was crazy. I asked her, "Excuse me, do you know who owns this property?" She smiled and said, "We do. We bought this house 6 months ago through Riverside Estates. Beautiful neighborhood, right?" I felt like I was going to pass out. I told her, "Ma'am, I hate to tell you this, but you're living on MY property. I own this land." She laughed. Actually laughed. She thought I was joking. Then she got nervous and went inside and called someone. Within 10 minutes, HOA security showed up and escorted me off my own property, threatening to call the police if I didn't leave. This was a nightmare. I immediately drove to the county recorder's office. I needed to understand what had happened. How could 3 houses be built on my land without my knowledge or permission? The clerk pulled up my property records, and here's what I discovered. About 3 months after I left, the Riverside Estates HOA filed paperwork claiming that my property had been abandoned. They submitted fraudulent documents stating that the land had no owner of record and that it was being claimed through an adverse possession process. Now, let me explain adverse possession for those who don't know. It's a legal doctrine where someone can claim ownership of land if they openly occupy it for a certain period of time, usually 15 to 20 years depending on the state. In North Carolina, it's 20 years with color of title or 7 years if you're paying property taxes. But here's the thing. I had been gone for 1 year. Adverse possession doesn't work that way. You can't just steal someone's property after 12 months. Yet somehow, Gerald Blackwood and his HOA had convinced a county official to push through the paperwork. They claimed the property was abandoned, submitted fake surveys showing their development boundaries extended onto my land, and got building permits approved. Within 6 months of me leaving, they had broken ground. Within a year, 3 families had moved in, each paying between $950,000 and $1. $3 million for their dream homes. But there was a problem. A big problem. None of this was legal. I contacted the best real estate attorney in Charlotte. Her name was Patricia Chun, and she specialized in property disputes. When I showed her all my documentation, the deeds, the surveys, the tax records, the certified letters I'd sent before leaving, her eyes went wide. She said, "Marcus, this is one of the most clear-cut cases of property theft I've ever seen. Everything you did was correct. They forged documents, they lied to the county, and they built on your land without permission. This is fraud. This is trespassing, and possibly racketeering." We immediately filed a lawsuit against the Riverside Estates HOA, Gerald Blackwood personally, the construction company, and even the county official who approved the permits. We demanded the houses be demolished and that I be compensated for damages. But Patricia gave me another option, a better option. She said, "Here's the thing. Those families who bought those houses, they're innocent victims. They didn't know they were buying property built on stolen land. If you force demolition, you're going to destroy 3 families financially and emotionally. But you have leverage. You could settle for something else." That's when she proposed the idea that would change everything. Patricia drafted a settlement proposal. Here were the terms. The HOA and Gerald Blackwood would publicly acknowledge that they illegally built on my property. They would pay me $500,000 in immediate damages. The 3 homeowners would enter in a 99-year land lease agreements with me, paying monthly rent for the land. Their houses sat on the rental rate would start at $5,000 per house per month. With 3% annual increases, the HOA would pay all my legal fees, which were already approaching $80,000. Gerald Blackwood would personally resign from all HOA positions if they refused. I would pursue criminal charges and force demolition of all structures. The HOA had 30 days to respond. The first response I got was from Gerald Blackwood's lawyer. They claimed I was extorting them. They said the settlement was unreasonable. They threatened to countersue. So we did exactly what we promised. We filed criminal complaints for fraud, forgery, and theft. We submitted all our evidence to the district attorney, and we filed for an emergency injunction to halt all construction in the development until the matter was resolved. That's when everything changed. Within 2 weeks, the county launched a full investigation into how those permits were approved. The official who signed off on them turned out he was Gerald Blackwood's brother-in-law. That's right, corruption. The 3 homeowners started getting calls from their title insurance companies saying their policies might be invalid because the land title was fraudulent. Their dream homes were now potentially worthless. The construction company got hit with cease and desist orders on 4 other projects because the county was now investigating all their permits. And Gerald Blackwood, his entire real estate empire started crumbling. Other property owners in Riverside Estates started questioning whether their property boundaries were legitimate. The HOA board called an emergency meeting and voted to remove Gerald from all positions. The pressure was mounting, and finally, 32 days after we sent the settlement offer, they came back to the table. But they didn't just accept our terms. They begged us to settle. We met in a conference room with Gerald Blackwood, the HOA board, the 3 homeowners, and about 9 lawyers. It was intense. Patricia laid out the terms again, but this time we had even more leverage. The criminal investigation was moving forward. The media had picked up the story, and the homeowners were facing financial ruin. So what happened after all this settled? Well, I'm now making $15,000 per month in passive income from land I wasn't even using. That's $180,000 per year, just from rental payments. With the 3% annual increases built in, I'm looking at over $6 million in rental income over the next 30 years alone. The $1 million in immediate settlements? I paid off my student loans, bought a small condo near the beach, invested the rest, and I'm essentially set for life. The 3 families who bought those houses, we actually became friendly. They understood I didn't create this mess, and I gave them very fair lease terms. One of the homeowners is a corporate lawyer, another is a doctor, and the third runs a tech startup. They can all afford the rent, and honestly, they're just relieved they didn't lose their homes. Gerald Blackwood? His reputation in the real estate world is destroyed. He lost his development company, his position on multiple HOA boards, and last I heard, he's facing several other lawsuits from people questioning his past deals. The Riverside Estates HOA completely restructured. They brought in independent management, hired new legal counsel, and actually became one of the better-run HOAs in the area. Now, what are the lessons from this crazy story? So where are we now? At the end of 2024? I still own the 12 acres. 3 mansions sit on about 4 acres of it, and I'm collecting $15,000 plus per month in rent. The remaining 8 acres? I'm actually considering developing it myself, but doing it the right way with proper permits and legal structures. The homeowners and I have a good relationship. They maintain their properties beautifully. They pay rent on time every month, and we've even had a few barbecues together. It's weirdly become a positive situation out of what started as a nightmare. My property management company now handles everything, so I can continue my research work without worrying about the land. The lease payments are automatically deposited, and I get quarterly reports on property conditions. Oh, and remember how I mentioned the HOA had to set up a $2 million escrow fund? That money is sitting there guaranteed, so even if something happened to the homeowners or the HOA, my payments are secured for decades. I've been contacted by 3 different documentary producers who want to tell this story. 2 podcasts have covered it, and it even made the local news. People can't believe something like this actually happened. But the wildest part? A few months ago, I got a letter from a property owner in Florida facing a similar situation. Their HOA was trying to claim part of their land. I connected them with Patricia, and they're now fighting back with the same strategies we used. This is apparently more common than people think. So that's my story. I left for a year, came back to find mansions on my land, and through some clever legal maneuvering and a lot of patience, I turned what could have been a total disaster into a retirement plan. If you're dealing with an HOA dispute, property boundary issues, or anything similar, here's my advice. Document everything. Know your rights, hire a great lawyer, and don't let anyone intimidate you just because they have an official sounding organization behind them. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done in this situation? Would you have forced demolition? Would you have settled differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have your own HOA horror story, share it. Maybe it'll be featured in a future video. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you're subscribed to Neighbor Wars HQ. We cover the most insane property disputes, HOA battles, and neighbor wars from around the country. Hit that like button, smash the notification bell, and share this video with anyone who needs to hear about HOA nightmares. Also, we've got a whole playlist of HOA horror stories that you need to check out. I'll link it in the description below. Trust me, some of these stories make mine look tame. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'm Marcus Sullivan, and remember, know your property rights, document everything, and never let an HOA push you around. I'll see you in the next video.